What is the worst place you had sex? I don't recommend on top of a piano. Very uncomfortable and not at all the experience we envisioned. Was it not grand? On a hike in a wildlife refuge. We went off the trail to a more remote area. Was all fun and games till I got stung on the dick. Was after the event had ended when I was briefly exposed. The little bastard went right at me. We joke about it regularly, I'd say it comes up monthly. Just out of the blue she will say, "Hey, remember when you got stung on your penis?" Yes, I remember and will never forget. During a family vacation, a massive ant crawled up my swimsuit and bit me right on the balls. This was 25 years ago and it still gets brought up occasionally. I think they're going to put it on my tombstone. Bottom of cliff next to the ocean. Turns out I have an allergic reaction to coral and my back was scratched the fuck up from it. It was windy, wet, and itchy. Runner-up is a movie theater. In a literal smokehouse. Lost my virginity with about 50 rings of deer sausage hanging around to dry. My friend and his dad were gone and we were like, this seems like a great place. At least when I went home I smelled like venison instead of sex. Met a girl online and we tried to do it at the park. A cop showed up before we started and told us we had to leave. We went back to our cars, which was at a small shopping mall. We went behind the shopping mall and got it on behind a dumpster. It worked out well, so we met up there again a week later. Except that time, as we were walking away, a dump truck picked the dumpster to empty the trash. Was hilarious at the time but frightening looking back on it. This was about 10 years ago. My childhood house had an enclosed porch that was level with my parents' bedroom window. It's hard to explain. You couldn't see into the porch from the window, but if the porch windows were open and the bedroom windows were open, you could hear everything from either room. So my now husband and I were trying to have sex in that porch, having opened the windows 'cause it was hot AF. My parents usually never opened their window and it was past 10, when they usually went to sleep. We weren't trying to be loud, but apparently we were. After we were done, I checked my phone and I had 5 missed calls and a text from my mother saying we can hear everything and please at least use a condom. We didn't acknowledge it at the time, but my mom got drunk a few years ago and told my aunt the story and said she was worried she was hearing the conception of her grandchild. Hot leather sofa. I'm still stuck to it to this day. After a drunken night on 6th Street in Austin, girl and I were walking down Red River Street. She drags me in this bushy grassy area. We go at it, finish, call an Uber to West Campus, continue going at it. The next day, we are super itchy. Come to find later it was poison ivy. Got it all over our genitals. Fun times. 10 out of 10 would do it again though. While sitting on a tree stump that was home to a colony of termites. That did not end well. Yeah, I hear that they love wood. A campground shower. People came in the bathroom while in the throes and we had to just stand still like we were avoiding a raptor attack until they left, because they otherwise would have heard the ball slapping passion from behind a dinky stall door. Did I mention I was bent over? Blood rushing to my head and water in my face. Still with the guy though, he's a charmer. Tool shed in the backyard of a house in Hawaii. Naked on my hands and knees going at it when my guy says, shit, and brushes something off my back. Feel something land on my forearm and see a huntsman spider as big as my hand scuttling down my arm and into the shadows. I scream and sit up and see the ceiling of the tool shed has even more huntsman spiders. Crawled out of there like Gollum and hid in the bushes. Made him bring me my clothes and shake them out hard before I took them from him. Backseat of her born-again Christian dad's car. We broke the backseat and left a lingering weird teenage hormone sex smell in the car. He was pissed. 3 a.m. leaving the club, got lucky but we didn't have the patience to walk to one of our places. So we stopped walking home and did it in a park. Walked past the park the next day to see it was actually a graveyard. There's this one time during which my ex and I both got really horny in the middle of the countryside. We headed for a small forest, took a quick walk in it and did the deed in a small clearing. Sex was good, But while putting my clothes back on, I spotted this camo-painted hunting camera that's triggered by movement. It was of course pointing at us the whole time. Let's just say that this poor guy lost his footage. Not sure if it counts, but I once had a sleep paralysis, wet dream. It was terrifying. You were raped by a demon. That sounds horrifying, lol. In the woods, with about 50 young bulls that were very interested in everything that was going on. We sneaked in and out of that field about 3 times to try and shake them off, but as soon as you make a sound, they all come running over to watch. With no concept of personal space. We ended up making a barrier out of branches to try and hold them off, but the fuckers just broke right through it in seconds. It was like Shaun of the Dead, but the zombies only want to lick you instead of eat you. Have you ever been licked by a bull? It feels like someone stroking your back with a fish dipped in egg whites. I would say I'm never doing that again, but we went back probably 7 or 8 times. Luckily the cows were always distracted by some sheep in the next field. This is one of the many joys of having parents that don't knock before entering a room. Believe me, if I could not fuck in front of a mooing audience, I would. Edit, just to clarify, the bulls were spectators, not participants, despite how hard they tried. Edit again, thanks to Yukani_fan for an accurate depiction of the event. Edit again. It was in the middle of the day, yeah. But we went there one evening too, and my god, that was scary. Nobody told me how to deal with bulls. Do you run or stand your ground? I just lifted my girlfriend over the fence into a neighbor's garden because they were getting agitated, and one put its head between my legs and chucked me about 4 feet off the ground. Not doing that again. Got to admire the persistence. Both yours and the bulls. This thread has worked wonders to prove just how boring my life has been. Secluded classroom in my high school after all classes were over. Was smart enough to push a table against the door so the handle wouldn't turn, or give, or go down, or however you say it. In the middle of it, hear someone trying to come in and fighting with such door handle. I just grab it and pull up as much as I can and hold, while both me and my then girlfriend, both half naked, are scared as shit. After what feels like 5 minutes, but is probably no longer than 30 seconds, the person on the other side of the door lets go. I look through the keyhole and it's one of the cleaning people, a woman. She walks all the way out that hallway. I said the classroom was secluded, and turns left. As soon as I see her disappear, I tell my girlfriend we have to make a run for it. So we pull our pants up and quickly walk down the hall, turn right, go round the big hole with ramps in the middle of the school, down the ramp, and out of there. It was one of the scariest, heart-rate-rising wise experiences of my life. To top it all off, she was an exchange student, so I guess she must have been 10 times more scared than I was. In an old barn, there were ladders that brought you up to these second-story platforms along the walls. Floor was covered in hay. Woke up the next morning with some gnarly scratches, itches, and rashes. Would do it again though. Was staying at a friend's cottage. They were in the process of adding a room onto the house above the garage. But a long process indeed, one of those jobs you start but just never seem to totally finish. The room was effectively storage at the time, but also had a bed in it. I was making love to a moderately lucky lady when lo and behold the fucking floor gives out. Unfortunately this isn't a cartoon and we didn't land peacefully on the bed. Instead we lay naked in agony on the cold concrete. I'd shattered my arm and fractured my patella, kneecap. She made it out with some gnarly bruises and scratches but nothing too serious. Thanked me for switching positions not long beforehand. Would potentially do it again though. Outside in Idaho on the back of a Jeep with a wild turkey running towards us. Terrifying. My wife and I have been together for 12 years now. When we were around 17-18 years old, we both were living respectively at our parents' houses. Both of our parents didn't want any closed doors or hear any funny business, and we were very, very horny teenagers. We came with this genius idea when it was time to say goodbye at the end of the evening. We would both be walking to the shed where my bike was located and talk there. So, You guessed it, we had sex in the shed probably over 20 times and honestly probably more. It was all fun and games until the odor of gasoline from the lawnmower started to give me a boner.